Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of WWF UK, His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales.
Secretaries of State, ladies and gentlemen, I must say I was enormously touched to have been asked here this evening, along with both my sons, to launch this really remarkable series. It is also a much-awaited opportunity to pay tribute to and thank Sir David Attenborough for all he has done over so many years to bring the wonder, the fascination, and increasingly the desperate plight of the natural world to our attention. Above all, he has done so much to lift the veil of ignorance from our eyes about the integrated and intricate beauty of our home. The film of our planet, so astonishingly crafted by Silverback Films, and with the support of WWF and Netflix, will, I pray, help to provide an essential means of reaching and teaching hundreds of millions of people around the world. Education about what we have destroyed, and what can and must be regenerated could not be more timely or more urgently needed. I must say, I often wonder why we have waited so long to take the action we were so evidently required to do. 50 years ago, as it happens about the same time I made my first speech about the environment, the space flight Apollo 8 took Earthrise, the photograph that showed for the first time the incomparable beauty and fragility of our planet. Surely one might have thought we would have known then the responsibility we had, that we had to do what we had to do and the perilous path along which we were treading. But since that time, we have cleared 50% of the world's rainforests, destroyed 50% of our coral reefs, poisoned our rivers, and indeed whole swathes of the ocean with a runoff from industrialized agriculture, and have dumped hundreds of millions of tons of plastic into the oceans as well. And of course, in doing so, we have instigated, as Sir David also said just now, the world's 6th mass extinction event, and have accelerated CO2 emissions to the extent that climate change is now a very real existential threat to our whole civilization. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Anthropocene, an epoch formed by the impact of man. And perhaps, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest crime of all is that we knew what we were doing. Informed consent being the basis of democracy, should we not reject informed destruction as the basis of catastrophe? And it appears we have only belatedly, partially and somewhat reluctantly, come to the realization that our planet does not refer to the hour of Homo sapiens, but rather to the whole astounding miracle of life on Earth. We share it equally, and as is becoming only too obvious, for our own survival, we desperately need the rest of the natural world, with which we are intimately interconnected, but which we have been taught to exploit and dominate as something entirely separate from ourselves. Now, I must say it has given me great pride to see how both my sons, in different ways, have taken up the cause of restoring the balance of nature. When they were much younger, I never thought they were paying attention to anything I said at all, or did. But when I turned 70 last year, I discovered to my absolute astonishment that they had. My sons are both keen to remind me that we know what the problem is. We no longer need permission to act, but the priority is now to focus urgently on finding and implementing solutions. It is also glaringly obvious as we look around our world that these solutions need to heal the environment and our societies. There is much, though, about which we can be hopeful. We can change our behavior, we can embrace a circular economy, we can embrace renewable energy, we can make soil health the basis of our agriculture, we can meet the Sustainable Development Goal targets on the ocean and forests, we can regenerate and restore our degraded landscapes, we can ensure that investment reflects the risks inherent in destroying natural capital as well as in climate change. And we can ensure that the infrastructure, on which some $90 trillion is to be spent in the next 20 years, is zero carbon and enhances the lives of those who depend upon it. So not only, ladies and gentlemen, do we have the solutions, we also have the money. In other words, the costs of keeping to 1.5 degrees of warming are relatively small and the benefits are enormous. Whereas the costs of not doing so are utterly catastrophic. So what I want to know is how can we possibly sacrifice our children's and grandchildren's entire future, let alone the future of all life on this miraculous planet, by not doing what we know is required now. And these self-same children and grandchildren are already raising their voices and demanding action, as you've probably all seen. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can do all of these things because we must. And by doing them, we will invest in technologies and activities that will secure employment and prosperity. Climate change and biodiversity loss are not only going to wreak havoc on future generations, they are starting to wreak havoc on us already, particularly and tragically on the poorest and most vulnerable. And we have no choice but to be the change we need, for there is nobody else. And for that to happen, as many people as possible, across all cultures and languages, must understand the natural world and our place within it. We are nature ourselves. Our planet will be a critical part of that process, and I hope and pray that it will catalyze an enduring determination to cherish and protect the earth, our only home. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.